up for you and I to do it. If it's harmful and they still want to do it, they are free to do it, right? I mean, you say that what people want to do in their bedroom, it's an individual choice. If women want to enter it, they want to enter it. I just want to ask you that in one of the blogs that you have written in your website, you speak about women's entry to Shani temples. And there you say that, look, the reason why they shouldn't be allowed is because there are planetary forces and it's not good for women to enter these temples. In the same vein, I just want to tell you a little bit about the law on the point. There are Supreme Court judgments which say that if you make laws which tend to be discriminatory for women, it cannot be a justification that we are doing it for their benefit. That cannot be the justification for any law that discriminates against women. This is the law of the land.
First of all, you have a misunderstanding that Indian temple is a place of prayer. Indian temple is not a place of prayer. I want you to know this. Different temples were built in different ways for specific purposes. Shani temple is built for occult purposes. Occult means, you know what's occult? What is the Telugu word for occult? What? What is that? What people call as black magic or whatever, you know? There are certain occult practices where if the occult practices are being done, women in state of pregnancy, in menstrual cycles, it could seriously impact their life. So they said women should not go. It was also designed that on a certain day, if the woman is in a certain condition, on a full moon day she can go, other days… These are prescriptions, these are not restrictions. These are prescriptions, these are not discriminations. These are done with a specific intent. Or, now that you're talking about women's rights, why don't you fight for the men's rights? In our temple, the Bhairavi temple that we have, men are not allowed inside the sanctum. Why don't you stand up and fight for that? I will tell you why they're not allowed. That temple is only for the women. Men are not allowed. Why? Is it a discrimination? It is not about discrimination, it is a certain dimension of life. If you go by this crude sense of equality, you will harm the woman immensely. There are millions of temples open to everybody. Suddenly, why discrimination will come in one temple? What are you talking about? This is not a culture which discriminated against women. There are more female deities in this country than male deities. Every village you go, there is an Amman temple, there is a Devi temple. And you think it's discrimination? These are very rudimentary ideas picked up from the West. You have not seen this culture, you have not understood the profoundness with which is run. Unfortunately, because of 15-20 generations of poverty, we've kind of mixed it up and made a mess out of it. That is a different matter.
So, before I move on to another person, and he'll probably be the last person, before I move on to you, are the people there done with that particular question, or is there any further question on that particular issue? I mean, for diversity of opinion, I need to choose somebody from here. So, I mean, unless you don't have a further point on the same issue, I'll proceed. So, could somebody please give him the mic?
Yeah. Namaskaram, Sadhguru.
So, yeah, so if Job has a follow-up, then please proceed.
So, this…
I can't help it. I mean, if he's not satisfied with the same issue, he should be…
So this crude sense of knowledge that you're talking about is the knowledge that's coming from the Supreme Court of the country.
Who is speaking, huh?
So this crude sense of knowledge that you say is the knowledge that's coming from the Supreme Court of the country.
No, please understand. Please listen to me.
Sir, you're still not addressing the point that who are you and I sitting here to make prescriptions for women and say that this is harmful for you, hence don't do it, or this is not harmful and you shouldn't do it. It's not up for you and I to do it. If it's harmful and they still want to do it, they are free to do it, right? I mean, you say that what people want to do in their bedroom, it's an individual choice. If women want to enter it, they want to enter it. Who are us to stop it?
You ask a question, please. You please ask a question. I'm not that dumb that a question needs to be explained to me. You ask a question.
So you didn't answer it the first time, hence I'm explaining.
Okay, you asked a question again, let me answer this, right? The question is, who are you to tell the ladies whether they should go to this or not.
No, I'm saying they should have the option. I'm saying they should have the option.
So, I mean, just to give a similar example, sir, alcohol might be… Oh, sorry.
I got it. There are hundreds of temples in the country where men cannot enter. So if men say…
There's a history of discrimination
that is a different matter. See, you're mixing up two things. There is unfortunate history of discrimination on all levels, that's a different matter, that has to be settled in a different way. But when a specific aspect comes, if you want to rule out all the subtler aspects of life and just say this is it… Anyway, let me tell you this. This I'm on camera, let me tell you this, okay? Supreme Court is there to interpret the Constitution. It cannot create a new Constitution. Doesn't matter what are the powers of the court. It cannot create a new Constitution. It is only there to interpret the law the way it is. Am I right? You're all lawyers? Hello?
That's debatable. That's debatable.
When you debate that, there is going to be lots of problems because every pressure point, people will apply, every motivated group will push for their own laws. If you create enough ruckus, some new law will happen. This should not happen. It is essentially within the framework of the Constitution, everything should happen. In the framework of the Constitution, there are laws where there are public places and there are private temples and private places of worship. How it should be done there is left to them. It is for them to decide how it happens. Is it happening simply because of a discrimination against a gender? If it is so, it must be struck down absolutely. But if there are other aspects to it, if you think you cannot consider anything else, then it's ridiculous. It becomes ridiculous. It's like saying, don't I have the right to enter the ladies' toilet? What nonsense is this? Do you need a law? You just need sense that you don't go there.
Job, is your question answered? Or should
No,
I…
it's not answered, but that's okay.
It's not answered. Shall we answer, Mr. Job?
Okay, so…
I'm okay.
There's a difference between a man not allowed to enter a woman's toilet and you using the same analogy.
I'm not saying he's not allowed. A man who is a man will not enter. That's all I said.
So that's a really stupid analogy that you're saying. So we are discussing the question of women's entry to temple and you're saying the reason why they're not allowed. One second, Subal.
I'm sorry, sir, you can continue with your question.
The problem, sir, Mr. Joe, you do not know the culture of this nation. You're talking simply activism.
Yeah, because I'm Catholic, right?
Because in this country, in this culture, the idea of discrimination never arose. I want you to understand, even before other countries ever thought of even giving franchise to the woman, this country did not even debate whether women should have voting rights or not. It's simply there because in our culture we never thought so. So the discrimination, exploitation is there. I want you to understand, there is exploitation, there is no necessary discrimination. Exploitation is not just of the woman. Anybody who is weaker than you, people are exploiting, whether it's a man, woman or child. Why do you think everybody is beating the children? Just simply because they're small, not because they have a right to do it. So anything which is weaker than them, they are exploiting, not just women. Unfortunately, women have also been taken a much amount of beating in terms of exploitation. But do not misunderstand exploitation and discrimination in a fundamental way. Discrimination is a different aspect, exploitation is a different aspect.